You are listening to the USDN on the DFPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. And joining me tonight is a man who wants to live in your dreams, just like Freddy Krueger. We got John McGuire with his Kickstarter, In Our Dreams Awake, number 3. John, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me on.
So, John, let's get down to the nitty gritty. You have a book that honestly it's like two stories in one, but it's the same story told two different ways, and it's cool as shit. Am I grasping the concept with that there?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, In Our Dreams Awake is the story of Jason Byron, who is a painter in a fantasy world where magic has taken over or has beaten out technology. And when he goes to sleep at night, he wakes up and Jason Byron is a gangster in a futuristic cyberpunk world. And each time he goes to bed there, he wakes back up in the fantasy world. And so as he and the reader, we're not sure which world is the real one, which world is the actual dream world. He has a love in both. One is a woman named Laura, who's his wife in the fantasy world, and in the future world, it's a fish alien woman named Femalin. So there are things in each that he both, he loves, but there's also tension that's happening. And the hope is, from the beginning of the story to the end, we'll see as his world starts spiraling a bit, those worlds start colliding into each other, and then it really becomes, you have to make a choice. What's the world you want to live in? And so that's kind of it in a longish nutshell.
No, that's terrific, and it is such a cool concept that I personally have never seen done before. So you really gave us something different. So I got to ask, though, how did you come up with this idea of the parallel dreams? Because it's like the dude never sleeps. He goes to sleep and he's
Sure.
immediately awake in another, world. So which is real and which is the dream? But how did you come up with that? Because it's really cool.
Yeah, so this project's actually over a decade old. The co-writer and myself, the co-writer's name's Egg Embry. We do a lot of ideas swapping in emails, throughout the day at our day jobs or whatever. And I hit upon this idea of, this guy who goes to sleep in one world and wakes up in another and that. And he's always looking at how do we actually do the product? And his thought was, well, what if we take that idea and we actually have two art teams, and you write one of the dreams and I write the other dream. And that way, not only does the art show, hey, something very different, this is a different world, this is a different feel, but then also our writing styles are not the same. So he's going to have a slightly different voice. But at the same time, we're editing each other, we're smoothing things out to make sure it's not completely crazy. But also trying to surprise each other a little bit too, when we were writing our stuff. So it kind of echoes back, I think, a tiny bit to, like the old flip books, what Marvel or DC might have done back in the day, where you get one story with one story with the other. And the other aspect of that, and one of the reasons it seemed like a good idea at the time, was if for some reason an artist couldn't, finish his stuff or, disappeared on us or whatever, it would only impact half the book. And then potentially we could, go get somebody else to either finish the story or kind of start fresh, and we wouldn't get too far behind.
Now, that's such a dope concept. And you're writing the magic version of the book, right?
Correct. Yeah, I write the fantasy version, and then Egg is writing the cyberpunk side.
So I wish Egg was here with us, because I really want to know his purpose of using the word Keith.
Well, I can tell you the story behind that. So we role play online once a week, kind of D&D style games or whatever.
Oh yeah, of course.
And one of our friends, we actually did this one in person, but one of our friends was kind of not paying attention to what the rest of the table was doing. And for some reason, he just started calling him Keith in the middle of the game. He's like, Keith, like pay attention. That's not the guy's name, but that's what he started saying. And we also got a big kick out of that. We just started laughing about that. And for some reason, he decided, you know what, instead of cussing, maybe he was channeling a little bit of like Legion of Superheroes or Star Galactica or something. But he was like, I'm going to make that kind of the cuss word is Keith, just to say, you're.
No, I mean, after about midway through the second book is when I really picked up, like, oh, dude, he just told him to Keith off.
Right.
I'm like, exactly. I'm grasping the concept now. I'm like,
right.
Like, dude, I love that concept, and the fact that it's born within an inside joke amongst a group of friends playing D&D is even better.
Right.
Because we all have a Keith in our life.
Exactly, and that's exactly right. Like, you just go, oh yeah, I get this. And when I was reading the script the first time and it popped up, I went, oh, I see what you did there. Okay, I got you.
No, that's probably the dopest concept. And have you done Comic Cons with the book yet and had people come up to you and go, dude, what the hell is Keith?
I haven't had the Keith aspect yet, because normally, they're taking it home to read. I think when my wife read it the first time, she kind of went like, what is this? And so I explained a little bit, and she's like, okay. And then, she did the eye roll like she normally does to say, at any of our stupid stuff that we do. But I have obviously done a few of the cons and Free Comic Book Day and those type things to try to get the book out there. So.
No, that's really cool, man. I love that kind of stuff. And that's probably one of the most heartfelt, like, just, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just something like an inside joke that makes it mainstream into something else,
Right.
I think there's a word for it. The word escapes me right now, but that to me is just like one of those, like, yeah, that's really cool. And it's something that you have with amongst your friends.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
So I know you said this book has been a decade in the making. Was there a specific film or book or maybe a moment that kind of like made you grasp this and come up with this concept?
I don't. What's so funny is I have our old emails, and it just was. I think it was me spitballing, these ideas, and this one kind of hit where sometimes on these email chains you'll go, what about this thing, and the other person kind of doesn't really respond to it. Maybe they'll say, oh, that sounds interesting, and then we move on to something else. And this one clearly grabbed Egg and was like, oh, we could do this. As far as like shows or movies, when I mentioned it to some other friends, they pointed out there's a Twilight Zone episode, and I wish I could remember the name offhand, but it's where he's in the main character's in a courtroom, and the courtroom kind of does a Groundhog Effect day where like he goes to sleep at night and then he wakes back up in the courtroom, and everybody's in different place. Like, the judge is one of the other actors and whatever, which I'd never seen it. But then I was like, oh yeah, that is kind of similar. But I'm sure you could probably trace everything back to just my love of like Groundhog Day in general.
Oh no,
that repetition, that other.
I think that's everybody really from a certain generation of like youth,
right?
That grew up in the 80s, and that's just one of those movies that it would come on every Thanksgiving or something like that, and it's just like it's one of those I'll watch on repeat, like a Christmas Carol or a Christmas Story, where you'll shoot your eye out.
Exactly.
It's like it becomes one of those things where it's like a must watch. If it's on TV, you stop what you're doing.
Yep.
I'm watching this.
Absolutely.
Don't bother me for the next hour and 45 minutes.
Exactly. There was one other thing that came out. So after we kind of come up with this idea, there was a TV show called Awake that literally was this idea. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's just instead it was a cop, and it was, I guess it was more maybe a sliding doors type effect, but it was when he went to sleep in one world, he woke up in the other one. And we actually briefly, I mean, we talked about that show a lot. We actually briefly even considered like we should do a podcast about that show, and then it got canceled probably, after the half season that it did.
Yeah.
So it never went anywhere. But yeah, so it was definitely one of those things where, what is it? Like when you start seeing other things that are maybe similar or that kind of feed into what you're doing, it's like I feel like I'm on the right track with this. Like you don't want to be, you don't want everybody to be doing it, but it's like it's nice when you see like, oh, somebody's doing something a little similar, which means I'm not crazy that this might be a story somebody might want to read.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those. And I gotta point out the art. I love the two different styles of art for each story. I love that concept, and the covers for all these books, to be fair, are absolutely phenomenal. Like it matches with what's going on in the story nicely. Like this is spot on. So whoever who did your art and your covers and stuff like that, definitely they picked up the vibe of the story, and everything fits together really nicely in the book. So
yeah. The fantasy was done by Edgar Salazar, and we actually, I mean, these pages are kind of towards that beginning of that decade. He did a lot of his work. The fantasy story was pretty much done, a decade ago. And he's now moved on to do Marvel and DC projects. He's done some like Into the Spider-Verse, and I want to say the Dynamite book that was with the public domain heroes. I can't think of the name. I think it was Superpowers or whatever. He did a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
And then the Cyberpunk side of things is Roland Kalnis, and we saw his art. I do the thing where I go onto Reddit or I go onto some of the Facebook book groups, and just I'll save posts from artists where I'm like, ooh, that's a cool style, right? And when I came across his, I immediately forwarded it on to Egg, and I was like, I think this is the guy for your side of the story.
So I'm going to be honest, the Dreampunk, like side of the book that Egg is writing reminds me of a lot. The artwork reminds me of a lot of early Vertigo Constantine.
Yeah, I can see that definitely.
And just early Vertigo in general, like that darker stuff they did. And I was like, I felt like I was going back a little bit to the old school Vertigo days with the Sandman and Constantine.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like, oh, I love this part of it. But then the fantasy side, the magic side of it reminded me a lot of earlier Conan.
Okay,
like
yeah.
The colors and the way the characters are drawn and that kind of stuff. So I was like, and I love both of those things. The older Conan, the new stuff is good. Don't get me wrong. The reboot of Conan that's currently going on, this is great stuff. The stories are really good from what I hear. I don't know. I was such a fan of the old Conan that it's hard for me to pick up the new Conan. Unlike with Hellblazer, I've been such a huge fan of John Constantine for so long that I don't care what generation it is. I pick it up and read it.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just one of those characters for me that he's one of my characters. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. I feel like my character like that is the Flash, and it's Wally West specifically, the Flash.
Yeah.
And so at
he's
some point,
such a huge, you can just about ask anybody who's a Flash guy, and it's Wally West.
Yeah. Well, and I, like you said, it's kind of that what you were reading kind of when you were in, teenager or whatever. And I went back and, and I don't have his Teen Titans appearances necessarily, but I have from issue 1 that Mike Barron, started that series post-crisis, all the way up now to whatever issue they currently are on in the 900s or whatever. And so, but I totally get that. It's like rain or shine. Every month, if that book comes out, I'm going to be getting it. And, I'm on board, and it might mean I have to suffer through some, subpar stories occasionally, but that's my guy.
Will. And it's like, So for me, I'm a big Image guy. Like
Okay.
I love indie comics, and
Yeah.
well, I can't even really say Image is an indie no more. But I love what they do over there. They're creator owned. They do a lot of stuff with the creators and that kind of stuff, and produces some fantastic stories. And then James Tinian, huge
Mhm.
fan of whatever he's writing. I don't care what it is. The dude could just write whatever, and I'm gonna read it because it's got his name on it. And I can only think of a couple of things, like, and that was his earlier stuff where he was writing superheroes.
Mhm.
That I was just kind of like, this was man. But then you
Right.
get into like the Department of Truth. Something is killing the
Yes.
children. He's writing Exquisite Corpses right now. Um, the Deviant, and you're just like, these are phenomenal
Yeah.
things. So for me, it's like 90% of my pulls Image.
Oh
And
yeah.
then Kickstarters and in pure indies. I'll read a lot of what y'all are doing out there. So
Sure, sure. No, I'm definitely like something's killing the children is amazing. I'm like two trades in so far, so I'm still kind of catching up to that.
I know
Um,
you're in that great arc right now, though.
yeah.
That arc right there in the beginning was, I don't want to say call it my favorite arc,
Hmm.
but it's definitely up there toward the top of the arcs that they have done.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. I'm
And then they
glad to
just
hear that.
released today or tomorrow, actually. Tomorrow's Wednesday, right?
Hmm.
Um, what's it called? Their new spin-off series. What's it called? I think it's a Monster Hunter walks into a bar or something like that.
Okay.
It's focusing back on the main character again, which is really cool. But I'm excited about that because it's new stories from something that's killing the children.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
So, and then the spinoff House of Slaughter, like I have everything from 1 through wherever we're at right now.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those,
Wow.
I don't miss a copy of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's I mean, as a collector and everything, it's one thing to, collect comics, but it's like when you're into something, when you're into a story or creator or whatever, that's like, I don't know, picking up that new comic on Wednesday is like the best feeling when especially
It
if you didn't
really
know it was
is.
like you kind of forgot it was supposed to be coming out and you go to your box or whatever and you're like, ooh, okay, I know what, it goes to the top of my
So
list, right? Like,
it's funny you say it like that because I literally this part of my life revolves around comic books and being in the know, watching the FOCs. I do all that stuff. But even when I go in on Wednesday to pick up my bots, I'm still like,
it's like Christmas
I mean,
Day,
I know
right?
what I
Like,
got. I know in
yeah,
the back of my head, I know what I got. But
yeah.
it's like at the same time, I'm like, there's always a surprise in there. Where my comic book shop is like, hey, this one came in from Ignition Press, which to me, Ignition Press is another one.
Okay.
That's kind of like jumping onto the screen again, and they're putting out some really great stuff right now. He's like, check out this one from Ignition, and I'm like, ooh, I missed this one. I didn't
Right.
see they announced this one was coming out this week. I thought it was like next month. But hey, if it's coming out today, I'll take it. And they're doing a lot of really good stuff right now. Ani Press, although they're losing Rick and Morty in December.
Hmm.
Boom Studios is always
Oh
phenomenal.
yeah, yeah,
Dynamite, what they're doing with the reboot of the old classic stuff, and what they're doing
yeah,
with like Thundercats and that kind of stuff. What's
yeah. I just saw an ad for they're doing Thundar the Barbarian next. I think
Yeah, yep,
which
Dynamite, yep.
yeah,
You saw the
I'm a
same one I did.
I,
I think they announced it yesterday.
yeah. I was like, wait, what? Because it was one of those images that popped up, and I'm like, what exactly am I? Oh,
So that
oh,
was me yesterday. That was it. I had that
yeah,
same. I'm like, oh, they're doing Thundar,
yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
I'm talking to myself because nobody's at my house. My wife's at work or whatever, and it's just me. And I'm
Right,
just like, oh, I'm like,
right.
thank God I'm home alone.
I can always blame talking to the cats. If I was listen, Courtney, I was telling the cats about Thundar. They needed to know.
I was just looking around. I was like, wait, did you see mine? Because I got 3 around here somewhere.
Okay, one of mine is asleep in the chair beside me, so
Mine are
he's hanging
downstairs,
out.
probably We just had dinner a little bit ago, so they're probably down there licking the counters or the kitchen table or
Oh
something.
yeah, absolutely.
Somebody dropped a
Another
little sauce somewhere.
right, another good one of the smaller companies. I really like Mad Cave. I read the Nottingham,
Yes,
all
that's a
those, and then I just picked up Dark Pyramid. I
Dark
think that's the
Pyramid.
name.
Yep, they got a
I
few
enjoyed
other
that a
ones that
lot.
are really good. I like it
Yeah.
because, and here's what a lot of people they love DC and they love Marvel. I
Hmm.
personally, on the other hand, I want the blood,
Hmm.
I want the gore, I want the spooky and the scary and the just scare the pants off of me when I turn the page.
Right. Yeah.
And you don't get that with DC or Marvel, but Image will do it.
Oh yeah.
Mad Cave will do it. Ignition Press, Boom Studios, Dynamite, all these other guys, they will do, well, not so much Dynamite. Dynamite's really been focused. They really got their grips in on the reboots with Space Ghost and Thundercats and that kind of stuff. And that's their niche, and they are absolutely killing that game over there.
Hmm.
So shout out to them that they're doing what they're doing over there. But yeah, Mad Cave,
Yeah.
they just
And
did
I.
Pop Kill as well.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know if
Yeah.
you
I
did you
don't
do
know
Pop
that one.
Kill?
No.
Check it's out on a trade paperback. Check that one out.
Okay. I'm writing it down. I also
And then the
have
Keen
the
Spot as well.
what's that one?
The Keen Spot.
The King Spot. All right.
Yep. It's
See,
another
now you're
publishing
just
company.
spending my money now. You know that, right?
It's what I do because that's me every Wednesday. I try a sampling because
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't do DC. Well, I picked up. I'll be picking up one DC book tomorrow because then the Catwoman will be on the cover of the Absolute series.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
pick that up just because I want that. There's one book by one artist who did a cover for it, and I just want his one cover.
Okay,
So
fair, fair.
that'll be my one DC book, unless Zatanna has a new cover coming out or
Mhm,
something. Then I'll
mhm.
get Zatanna because I love Justice League Dark, and that's basically it for me. Unless it's a Vertigo something.
Yeah, fair enough.
But let's get back to you, man. This is all about you. So we see a love triangle of sorts between Laura and Fema. So what's the emotional core of this story for you? Is it about love, identity, Jason's sanity?
I think, for me, there's so many times in our lives it's kind of that path not taken. It's the what if moments. And I think this is obviously in a kind of over dramatic form with the two different worlds, but it really is that like the grass greener on the other side type situation.
Mm-hmm.
And at the core, I do feel like it is a love story. It's about, how far are you willing to go for the people that you love, and how far are they willing to go for you, and what happens when you make mistakes that may have impacts to them,
Yeah.
throughout the story.
And,
And
and it really hits home in issue 3.
yeah, well, issue 3 is really, the first two issues. It's a very hard divide. The first issue has the first 12 pages or so are the fantasy dream, and then
Mm-hmm.
we switch to the cyberpunk dream, and then in issue 2 it's flipped. So we have the
Yep.
cyberpunk dream, but issue 3 is really where I think what I said earlier, where those worlds are starting to spiral in and collide with each
Yeah.
other. And so we cut from cyberpunk to fantasy and back,
Yeah.
multiple times throughout the story
Yep.
to show that hopefully to show that maybe his sanity is being tested. Maybe, the decisions he's made up to this point weren't the best decisions,
Yeah.
and he's kind of losing control in the,
Very much
in his
so.
worlds,
Yep.
so
No, I love what y'all did in number 3, to be fair. And anybody out there thinking about it, number 3 hits it. Like it's like you really start to see Jason. I don't want to say losing his shit, but he's on the verge of losing his shit.
mm,
It feels like to some degree. And I mean, in my eyes, he had this really lovely lady in the fantasy world, this alien fish girl
yeah, yep,
in the Dreampunk world or the cyber world, and it's like two very different things, really. Even though it's like this world's falling apart now, this world's falling apart, and you're like, "Damn, Jason, like you're in the shit right now, dude."
right. Yeah, you really just need to hold on as tight as you can because the world's gonna buck you from it almost, you know.
Book 4, I can already know is going to be like this really awesome like twists and turns of, and hopefully you do it like you did number 3, where you're like, oh, you're here.
Yes.
Something happens dramatic here, and it's like bloop, he slips
Yeah.
back into the other world.
And yeah, that's exactly, basically the moment between 2 and 3 and the moment that happens early in issue 3 is really these catalysts for the more frenetic, changing of scenes, changing of worlds, to kind of, hopefully for the reader, they start feeling that too, where it's not, oh, I'm going to get a huge block of this. It's like, I'm going to get
Mhm.
2 or 3 pages and then we're flipping. And then I get 2 or
Yeah,
3 pages and then we flip again, and it's like,
I really like that, to be fair, because you were like, as I'm turning the page, well, not turning the page, as I'm scrolling the
right.
page of this, and I'm just like, are we going to be in the fantasy world, or are we going to still be in the cyber world? And it's like, ooh, we're still in cyber. And then all of a sudden it's like the next scroll down, it's like something dramatic happened here. So we're right back into the fantasy world again. And I'm just like, man, I'm like, dude, they are fucking killing it on this one. Pardon my 4-letter words there, but I
No,
was like, he's killing it on this one.
no, we appreciate it for sure. That's what you're saying is what we were hoping to convey. So that helps to know that it did
You
convey
and
that.
Egg absolutely nailed it on number 3. And the first 2, like I said, they set a perfect stage for what I feel is like going to be this really great number 4 when y'all get ready to do it. So in number 3 is setting up a perfect stage for like this big hailstorm of stuff that's going to happen in number 4.
Yeah, I almost want, like you saying that is like, I want to say things and they're all in part 4. And I'm like,
And
I'm
no,
not going to,
no,
don't
let's
want
not
to give away
spoil it. No
anything,
spoiling. So
but,
let's dig into these 2 realities because they're very different.
mhm.
But to Jason, I mean, it's basically the same story playing out for him in just 2 different types of realities. So in this fantasy world, we got the Magi ruling, tech has been forbidden. What really inspired like that set for y'all to go with that type of setting versus something else?
Yeah. So I think, one of one of the previous projects I worked on kind of in between all this was a steampunk story called The Gilded Age, that I, did 4 issues of, and we did a trade and all that. And so I think in my mind, I always kind of wanted to, since this technically predates that, I always wanted to kind of write something that was a little more on that steampunk, technology, magic slash world. And so
Which is a great genre, by the way. I
yeah,
don't think we
yeah.
get enough steampunk in our lives.
No, I would agree on that for sure. And I think that helped, once we figured out that was the setting we wanted, then it helped us to figure out what the world was and what did it mean that if tech was, forbidden or whatever, how could we incite the incident, so to speak, right? Like,
Mhm.
what is the thing that's driving him? And in the first issue, we come to find out that it's this telescope, which is a
Yeah.
piece of forbidden tech that he has. And
When you think
then,
about it, you don't think of a telescope as tech.
mhm,
So it's one of those weird things where I'm like, a telescope? I'm like, then I'm like, well, I guess in that time. But
right,
I think the way it's laid out is at one point this world, the fantasy world was at one point technologically advanced.
sure, yep,
And then the ruling class of the Magi kind of reverted it back and banned all technology and that kind of stuff. That's why it looks more medieval times,
yeah, and
which
that's,
again would have been one of those times where technology was going to start coming back again.
hmm yeah, no, that's exactly right. In my mind, it's almost like if you had Da Vinci's stuff, but then somebody put a stop to it immediately.
Yes.
So you would have a few things that might be buried in some hole in the ground, so to speak.
Mhm.
But for the most part, like that's where advancement of tech kind of ended, and then
Yep.
they started going backwards, a little bit. So
Yep.
yeah,
No, it's really cool. And we'll flip it on the other side now. So in the cyberpunk world, you got flooded cities,
hmm
guild aliens, this neon rebellion where we got talking cats and that kind of stuff, which is really cool. Love that concept because I know the cats were your idea.
Well,
so how did you visualize that contrast? Because it is a drastic contrast, but there's that one, tie-in line in there with not just Jason, but the spaceship.
Yes. So that was I wish I remembered, who came up with that part of the idea is what does he see in the telescope? But once it was said out loud, he's going to see a spaceship that's kind of from the future stuff. That it just crystallized. It's like, oh, that's great. Like that's the first moment of these two worlds kind of starting to bleed a little bit together. As far as the cats, that's all Egg actually. And what's weird is he's not a
Really?
cat. He's not a cat guy. He's not an animal guy really. But what happened is for issue 1, when we did the Kickstarter for that, one of our reward levels was get drawn into a comic. And a backer reached out to us and said, listen, I don't want to appear in the comic, but if you could draw a couple of my cats into the comic. And at that point, Egg went, well, wait a second. Why not just make them a part, not just background characters? We're going to make them legit, like some of the bad
Dude,
guys.
that to me,
whatever.
as soon as I seen that, I was like, and I knew you were a cat guy. I mean, I read your bio and all. I do my due diligence for people out there. I read and find out what people do and what their things are. I read up on you.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, dude, talking cats, I love it already. I'm sold.
Yeah. Well, all he had to say was that, and I was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do that. That sounds great, man. And I think it's again, it's one of those happy accidents. I feel like when an idea is presented between one of us, and then you just go, oh yeah, that's the thing. Like that was, I don't want to say the missing piece, but maybe the missing piece of this part of the story,
If Bob Ross taught us anything, it's nothing but happy little mistakes.
Exactly. But yeah, the other aspect of the cyberpunk side of things was, this is weirdly, again, because the project has taken so long to get out there, we had a very different artist originally, and he did, I don't know, he might have done 18 total pages worth of art. And then fell off the face of the earth. Like we could not find him, could not get a hold of him, anything. So we can't really use that work.
I've heard of that happening to people.
Yeah. And so at that point, it was less cyberpunky. It was probably just more futuristic, and when going back to Roland's, when we saw his art, it just crystallized that this is the mood. This is the what you said earlier, like gritty, Vertigo kind of inspired feel to things. Still have that neon.
I do love how the neon is just kind of like random.
Yeah, and
it's no real like contrast to anything. It's just random, and I love that about the neon that appears. It's almost like it's just all black, and then there's like these random neons sprinkled in. I love that concept, and that's how he did that.
Yeah. He knocked. I mean, it was just one of those things we kept getting pages in, and we were like, oh, okay, wow. Which again, as a writer, it can be kind of a lonely time to just be sitting at your desk and not doing, you're just churning out words or whatever you don't really know. But when artists send you pages, I mean, we talked about Christmas Day with like your new comic day, but when artist page comes in and it's just like, wow, like you kind of have to sit back and go, that is amazing. Because at the end of the day, I'm writing words on a page and somebody else is having to interpret that and make it come to that next level,
So who's doing the lettering for y'all? Are y'all doing your own lettering, or is that the artist doing your lettering as well?
No, actually it's a guy named Alex Lugo, who is
perfect. Shout him out, man. Letterers don't get enough love.
No, I love what Alex has done. He actually helps also format the book for our publication and everything as well. So he's kind of a jack of all trades. He's an artist on the side. I think he said when I talked to him last, he's like, just let me know when issue 4 is ready, to go, and I'll get started on that. And he's going to start working on some of his own stuff too. But he was one of those, because I've done some minor lettering, on like very indie stuff. Egg's done some minor, but Alex brings like a level of professionalism that just ties everything together in a great way, I think,
and
it really,
I always say lettering can make or break a good comic book. And now if you're looking at a comic book and you flip the page and it's just a whole bunch of words barfed up on a page with no rhyme or reason, you're going to put that comic book down and go, I'm not reading all that. I have no idea. Like, what is even this?
Yes, yes. I think too, it helps sometimes just the flow, like again, I'm writing, character dialogue. The way he is able to place it on the page, especially those pages where we probably maybe had too much dialogue on a particular page, right? And he somehow, through magic or witchcraft or something, has figured out how to actually do it. So
an experienced letter will make or break your comic book. And I tell people this all the time. And because you don't want to misplace a word box.
Right. Yeah.
Because you could hide details that are relevant to a scene.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to do that. Because what happens later is when you get to another page and they reference something back to that other page, and they're like, I don't remember seeing that. And if you're like me, when I read a comic book, I read the comic book. I study the page. I look at the details. I want to see if there's an Easter egg or something hidden within these pages. Because some artists like to fuck with us like that. They'll hide stuff.
Sure.
And then they'll call it back. And they'll make a reference to it. And you're like, was that? Oh, it was what he was talking about. Okay. I'm tracking what they're putting down now. So that can, again, make or break a good comic book.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right on that. We're lucky to have Alex helping put our words on the page in a readable way that
it's everything meshes so well together, and it's one of those it makes it enjoyable to read because it should be a fine balance of words and art and stuff going on. And he's nailed it.
Well, I'll have to pass that along. He'll be happy to hear that. I'm sure.
Him and Egg too. Let them know that they've in this cover for 3 with the Magi on the cover.
Oh yeah.
I don't know who did that cover, but that cover's amazing. I love that cover.
So that's Jose Garcia, and again, it goes back to that. As we're doing these Kickstarters, as I'm looking for project artists and stuff, a flag, certain posts, whether it's on Blue Sky or Facebook or whatever. And he's one I had flagged at one point as like, maybe, and he was, I mean, he did this one. It's taken a minute to this issue to get out, but I think he did this one over a year ago. And it was one of those things, I think he was running a sale, on like a cover piece. And he had, X number of spots. And so I immediately DM'd him. I was like, hey, you have a spot. No. I'm down, man. I got real money.
He did a phenomenal cover for y'all. So shout out to him because that was a phenomenal cover. As soon as I seen the cover, I was like, that's the art I'm using.
Yeah.
I already knew. As soon as I seen that cover, I was like, I'm going with that one. That cover is amazing. I love the other cover too, but just something about how the Magi look on that cover really sets the tone.
Yeah. So, it definitely, I love the idea because, it's that weird thing too. It's like, he's like, well, what do you want me to draw? And it's like, well, I guess, maybe the bad guys, like we haven't really, we focused on Jason with issue 1, with the world, the 2 worlds. And then we had the homage to the Flash of 2 Worlds for the fantasy cover for issue 2. And I was like, we haven't really focused on the bad guys yet. And he just, again, I got those pages or I got those initial sketches and I was like, oh, this is cool, man.
He absolutely nailed the vibe of the entire book with the villains. And that's another thing. Villains don't get enough love on covers.
I agree. I think sometimes we get so focused on like who the protagonist is, we forget that like without our antagonist, we don't have a story, right?
I will say this: DC currently has the absolute thing going on, and they're releasing their villains currently. Those covers are some amazing covers. So they're putting some focus on the villains for once.
Yeah.
And the absolute Joker in that series is going to be. He reminds me of I don't know if you were ever into Image Comics and Spawn.
Oh, yeah.
But the Violator,
Oh
The
yeah, yeah,
actual
absolutely.
Violator,
Yeah.
that is what the absolute Joker reminds me of.
Oh
Is
yeah.
the Violator in Violator form.
All those early Image books, I was, on board with all of them. I've got boxes upstairs that are just,
Same.
multiple issues of, I don't know, maybe 50 issues worth of Spawn at least, Savage Dragon.
I never
Um,
stopped collecting Spawn. I
oh,
have gone
okay.
back and I quit collecting for a very long time, and I thought Spawn fell off the map because at the time Image was a pure indie thing. They had
Hmm.
Youngblood, Savage Dragon, Spawn, and then I came back to comic books many years later, and it's like, holy shit, Spawn's still a thing. And I got the trade paperbacks because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to go back and pay prices for,
Sure,
you
sure.
know, and then ever since I've been like every week, if there's a new Spawn, I don't care if it's Gunslinger Spawn or what. I just always loved that universe.
Yeah. No, McFarlane, I mean, he created something that was again different from anything else that was on the stands at the time.
Yep.
And it was, I mean, obviously his art is what it is. I mean, it's amazing in and of itself, but just yeah, those early days, it was so there was such an excitement, there was a fever for all that.
It was
And
new. It was unique,
yeah,
and it the it didn't follow the rules of normal
mm,
superheroes.
yes, yes.
So that's why it always stuck with me, I guess. But we so personal question:
Okay.
which world would you rather live in? The mythical world or the mechanical world? So we got your magi or your aliens. Which one you going with if you got to pick?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's so rough in the future world that like just a day-to-day survival is going to be just like difficult to do. I probably would opt for the fantasy because while I don't really have any natural like, farming or whatever skills in my real life, I might be able to get by,
Yeah.
with some trade or, whatever. So
But hey, in the cyberpunk world, you get to talk to your cat.
that no, that is true.
So
So
I
yeah,
mean, you got to really think about that one.
yeah.
Although my
I,
cats would just be like, "Hey, give me another snack."
Right.
So
It's dinner time. I just fed you. No, it's dinner time, really. They'll
yeah,
gaslight you
so maybe not. I
constantly.
probably would go with the fantasy world because that would be the entire conversations at all points with my
Right,
cats.
exactly. I basically have those conversations anyway.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I gotta ask though, as a writer between you and Egg, how did you keep both these worlds distinct but connected? As a from a theme standpoint.
oh, I think that all starts like early on. I don't want to say a pure outlining type thing, but we definitely talked about the story. We talked about the kind of story we wanted to tell, I mean, we had so many talks, whether it was, at dinners or whatever about
Mhm.
this project before
So
we
is Egg a neighbor with you as well? Like,
well, he lives in the Atlanta area as well. We actually went to
okay.
high school together, so I
Oh,
mean, I've
okay.
known him for forever. And he does a lot. Uh, he doesn't really do a lot of comic related things. I basically dragged him back into it, but he does a lot of
Mhm.
role playing related
Yeah.
articles and zines and stuff like that. So, but
No, that's
yeah,
really dope.
we talked about the story for a long time before I think we either of us put any words down
Mhm.
on the page. And then it was just writing the script, and then sending it, kind of doing the script swap of like, this is what I'm thinking, and then just kind of doing an edit where it wasn't a grammar edit or anything. It was really a story edit. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
if you're doing this, then maybe we need to introduce this into my story, or hey, does this work for this? To try to, again, they need to be separate, but they do need to have that slow come together as well.
Yeah.
um, and so hopefully we manage that through that
No, no,
process.
y'all absolutely like nailed it. Whatever the process was, because it's like I said in the beginning, it's two separate stories telling almost the same as that story that are starting to collide or collapse onto each other because Jason is either losing his mind or yeah, basically he's just losing his mind. Yes.
Fair, yes, fair.
But I really enjoy because, like I said, different, and I always enjoy the different.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing with that is, I said earlier, that the writing can be kind of a lonely thing if you let it. But when you're collaborating with a co-writer, you get those cool moments where you almost want to one up each other. So
Mhm.
he sends me something and I'm like, oh crap, I got to step my game up now to
Is
like
that
show
yeah.
him so that when he opens the next email, he goes, ah crap, I got to, do the
Yeah.
thing. So there's
No,
a
that's
little bit
really
of that
cool.
like gamesmanship going on too, where it's just like you want to surprise them, you want to, give them something to react to and go, yeah, that's a cool thread. Let's make sure we pay that off somewhere.
Mhm. I like it. I like it. So for I know you there's two separate artists as well, one doing one side, one doing the other side. How is that working with between you and Egg? Are you and Egg both working with your respective artists, like on a, or do you just send them like, hey, here's my words, make it work?
Yeah, it's a well. So the fantasy
I
stuff,
know
like
some people who do that, who prefer that.
yeah. So the fantasy stuff, it was kind of again because that was written a while back as far as like the core pages, and then the dialogue's been updated, as time
Hmm.
has gone on. And so it was a little bit of a learning process, I think, with myself and Edgar, where you want to, as in theory, as a writer, I want to write to the artist's strengths, right? So like if the artist can't draw a horse, well then I don't need to put horses in this comic, right? Like now luckily Edgar is pretty strong at
I was gonna
everything,
say
so
he
I didn't.
drew a horse. I
Yeah,
seen it,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
really
So
damn good.
it wasn't even that, it was more, um and I think as the issue, as the parts of the issues went along, it was, hey, I don't want to, like, it was still scripted, more DC style, you
Hmm.
would say, but there was definitely pages where I'm like, here's kind of the beats, here's
Yeah,
the big moments, but you can kind of put them however you feel is best, whether if it's a fight or if it's, some more physical thing
a
that's supposed to be
struggle or
going on.
something like
Yeah,
that.
because I think sometimes as writers, it's like we think panel one to panel two to panel three, whereas the artist can be like, well, no, this is more of a dance. Like I don't need gutters. I don't need, or maybe we can break a panel and have him, punch through the gutter or something like
Hmm.
that. And so at least on my part, that was very much, again, was learning how to do that, but hopefully, each issue, you learn a little bit more of like what their strengths is, what your strengths are, and just play off of each other.
Yeah.
Um, as far as Egg goes, I think as much as anything, like I said earlier, he really adapted the story to that style that Rollins was showing, to try to lean in as hard as he could
Hmm.
to Roland's strengths on that stuff. And um, and I think again, with his dialogue, obviously we talked about the Keith thing, but just some of the mannerisms, some of the way that Mike talks, where it's almost in some weird riddle of sorts,
Yeah.
at times. He was trying to do something, I think, and I think he succeeds. That's a little non-standard anyway. To
Yeah.
really maybe to make you as a reader, it could be jarring, but I hope in a good way. Like
No,
to bring you
he
into that
really
world.
did. He and where it really connected was the Keith thing
Hmm.
and the way he used the word parliament,
Oh yeah,
which
yeah, yeah,
it's
sure.
very rare that I talk words to the writer or the writers, but I really like the way he used certain words for one thing, or it's the same thing but yet different. Like
Right.
the
Yeah.
word parliament. I come here to parliament with you.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, I see what he did there. And like I
Yeah.
said, I think I was midway through issue 2 or maybe into early part of issue 3 when I was like, oh, he just didn't want to use curse words, which is really cool. And he's using the word Keith to denote the F word.
Right.
And I was like, again, that's a really cool piece of what he just did. And it works
Yeah,
because you
absolutely.
don't know what this dystopian this society has. Maybe you can't say the actual curse words there without getting the morale police or something. Who knows?
Right.
And that leaves it to your imagination as the reader, which I thought was another one of those really cool pieces where you may not have thought about it as the writer, but as the reader, I can interpret it that way, right?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. No,
So
I think it works really well with what,
it
and
does.
to give that, like you said, it's using words in a slightly different way, or bring, parliament is something that we don't really use in everyday language very
Yeah.
often. So I think he definitely leaned into that as well, to say, okay, if this is a futuristic world, they wouldn't necessarily exactly talk the way we talk.
Mhm. And you can tell, like, this world has been through this shit and has been going through this shit for
Mhm.
quite some time since the arrival of these aliens. So some of these people may have never been educated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that stuff went away as they were coming up. So way they use words may be different than their true intentions because they just never learned how to say that word or what
Mhm.
that real meaning of that word was.
Yep.
So nah, he absolutely nailed that aspect of that world. So, but we're gonna let's dive into this part of it. So there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for here? I lost my words. Um, the emotional core of this story, the search for identity, meaning, reality fractures. And so Jason is struggling between these two worlds. Do you see this as a reflection of a creative life where writers live in like imagination and half in reality? Like, does
I,
that make sense as a
no,
question?
I think it's 100. You're 100% on track, man. Like, the I think that, so, on my little bio or whatever, I say that I'm a civil engineer by day and I'm a writer at night, and that
Mhm.
kind of dualism, I think, is my life. There's the right brain, left brain,
Yep.
kind of warring with each other at times. My dad, was an engineer that went into banking and whatever, and my mom was a nurse, but also was a teacher. But she's the more artistic one. So, like, even with them, you can kind of see, okay, that's where I get that. That's where I get this. Um, and I also think there's so many times in our lives where, you know, I have some of my friends are very much, they want to, like, worry about the paths they didn't take, or, the
Mhm.
choices they didn't make. And I do that too. I think we all do that.
Oh,
And I,
absolutely.
and I think this story is, maybe it's some weird therapy session in a very odd way, to, like, try to work through some of
Yes.
those things of, can I be both? And is it okay if I want to be one more than the other, right? Like, if I want to live in one world more than the other, right?
Absolutely. I literally almost on a daily basis, a few times a day, just go, wish I was like, I just want to quit my job and interview comic book artists for the rest of my life. And I would be the happiest man in the world.
Yeah.
And that's my internal struggle. And I love my day job.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the other thing. I always tell people, I probably like 85 to 90% of what I do, at the day job. But yeah, I mean, if money was not a factor, and all that stuff, I would love to be a writer, full time, and do that thing. That would
I
be
would be
great.
sitting right here at this desk creating content.
Yeah, exactly. So I think at its core, it's really born out of that, am I on the right excuse me, am I on the right track? And, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? um, and just trying to just, kind of figure things out as best I can. And I think, I hope maybe that's what Egg saw when he saw that initial email, without me
Mhm.
specifically saying it. Maybe that's what grabbed him, because I feel like he has the same thoughts
Yeah,
and ideas, that duality of, I got to go work to pay the bills and do the thing, but, like, what I'd really love to do is this other thing.
right here. No, I think that as a from a creative standpoint, no matter what that creative is, whether it's writing comic books, drawing comic books, sitting here as a podcaster
Hmm.
interviewing guys about comic books, I
Yeah.
think we're all in that same boat. And dude, that hits very close to home, and you nailed it perfectly. So yes, absolutely. So staying within kind of this realm of philosophical shit right now, we're dropping
Sure,
we're getting
sure.
deep in it.
That's right.
So Jason is struggling between these two worlds. Wait, nope, that's not the one. It's the next one. So the philosophical undertone. I knew I was setting myself up for the next question and I just went to the wrong one. So what is real? And how do you balance those heavy ideas without losing the story's momentum, which I go ahead and tell you, you haven't lost the momentum. I think you're nailing it perfectly, but kind of like you're on issue 3, dropping tomorrow on Kickstarter. How do you not lose the story between the two? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like what is actually real?
Well, so
I mean, I know y'all know, but
right.
reader,
Yeah.
I don't want to know until the next part.
So I think that's the core of, as we were developing a story, as we were trying to figure out, you're building on this thing of, and at first, Egg nor myself, I think, had an idea of which is the
Mhm.
real world, right? Like, and it didn't I think at the beginning, it doesn't necessarily matter which is the real world initially. Um,
Yeah.
it's as time goes on and these dreams start to become nightmares, that him making a choice is the ultimate, I think, piece of the puzzle, right? And that we make our own realities at the end of the day as
Yeah.
people. And so you can live in a dream world and you can, ignore your day-to-day stuff, or you can like try to figure out a way to make it all work
Mhm.
within the life you've chosen. And I think that's part of it, is just trying to be true to that idea of how do you live a life that, um, just, you're doing what you're wanting to do, at the same time you're providing for your family,
Yeah.
with you're able to have friends and all that good stuff. And by the same token, obviously we've put these in these fantastical situations,
Yeah.
um, to try to, I think the best sci-fi is always ones that, like, you can bore down to the core and go, oh, this is a story about this,
Yep.
like, yeah, they're on a distant planet and they're fighting whatever monster or whatever, but like,
Mhm.
really, this story is about this.
Yep.
And I think for us, that was what we were trying to get back to at every point, was this story is about choices and, living your life to the best that you can and choosing the life that you want to live at the end of the day, not having that life thrust upon you. And I think that core line hopefully runs through the first 3 issues. And when the 4th issue does come out, that it kind of wraps a bow on everything to say, these are the choices he made, but he made those choices.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect segue actually into what I'm about to ask you is that do you think readers are meant to choose which world is real, or is ambiguity part of that message?
I I hope that, like, there's at least some thought in their head of like, I think this might be the real world, or this might
Yeah.
be the real world. Um, the only thing is, I hope they don't get too caught up in that aspect of things,
Mhm.
where if they're not right at the end of the day in their choice, they don't let that go. Well, I had it as, option A and it was option B. And so I feel like I'm let down by the ending. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
No, and you know what? And this is how I took it is I want the surprise at the end of the book.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to be happy either way. I mean, in my head, I'm like, yeah, now that I've read issue 3, I kind of want it to be this other way, but I
Hmm.
wouldn't be mad if it was this way because he ended things kind of like the way he wanted to.
Yeah,
So I'm
sure.
like, but at the same time, I'm like, I really just want that surprise at the end of the stick, you know?
Yeah, 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 sure.
So and again, I take comic books differently than some people. Some people take the stuff literal and they're strict, like, well, it should have been this.
Right,
No, just
yeah.
tell me, make me happy. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? At the end of the day. So let's jump into the actual Kickstarter campaign itself. In Our Dreams Await number 3 goes live tomorrow. I'm guessing around lunchtime.
Yeah, that's right. Right around lunchtime.
Perfect. So for returning backers, what can they expect from this issue? I mean, I know what they can expect, but let's hear it from your mouth.
So, like we've been talking about, this is really the between issue 2 and issue 3 is kind of the moment everything flips, and that world, those two worlds that we've started to get to know, and we've seen like the struggles that he's having. This is where literally the dream is starting to become nightmare, and now you've just got to hold on tight to whatever world he can grasp onto, Jason, as that thing continues to spiral out of control, and those two worlds keep bleeding into each other. And so that's really what issue 3 is going to offer. And hopefully now it's just we're on the roller coaster ride and we're just hanging on.
I'm on it. I'm not gonna bullshit. I am on that roller coaster in the front seat, because it, like, the way everything's starting to collapse into each other now is like truly a roller coaster, because you're like, now you're on the end of your seat going, I need these dudes to do number 4 kind of quickly because I want to know. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I hope that's when people who come back to this project will feel the same way about it, because I was definitely on board. Like number 3, if 1 and 2, if people felt that was kind of slow, number 3, they're in for a damn roller coaster. So,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were gonna.
All I was gonna say is the other thing is, and as you know, issue 3 is done, right? So like when we launch tomorrow, when the campaign's over, the next day or whatever, they're gonna get digital copies out. So this isn't a case where you got to wait for months and months and months for us to finish the thing. Yeah. And even issue 4, we're 90% through that. Really, we only have a couple of pages left, so we're really excited to kind of get this story out there. And my hope is that if you were on board for the first 2 issues, obviously I want you to come back. My hope is that through this and through talking to people like you who are gracious enough to have me on, that like a few other people will pick up the book and go, wow, okay, yeah, I want to see where this goes. I want to see how this ends.
Absolutely.
What's the story? What's the full story?
So I always like to ask whenever I have people on and they're like, this is your 3rd book of this series. Is this a good starting point for people, or would you recommend going back when this kicks off to get 1 and 2 as well, and then enjoy number 3?
Yeah, sadly, that's probably the one downside, is I do think you need to get 1, 2, and 3 together. And the nice thing is, if you're not 100% sure as far as physical and you don't want to spend, for that reward level, we'll have a digital level that's a catch-up level. So, you can definitely.
That was going to be literally the next question. Do you have a catch-up level for people?
Yeah, we definitely do, because I know, just as a backer of other Kickstarters, that I'll discover issue 3 and then I'm like, oh, well, this looks cool. I want to read what happened before.
Yep.
To get the full story, because I think it would be very odd, I think, if you picked up issue 3 and just read it cold. It would be the weirdest thing ever, I think. You might think.
I think people would. That's where I was about to say. I'm like, people are gonna be like, "What the hell is this?" But no, it would definitely be a trip. But I would tell you, number 3 is a fun trip if that's what they decided to do.
Yeah.
But so what kind of rewards or exclusives are you going to be offering on this campaign? Are you bringing something new to the table, or are you just gonna, hey, we got the digitals and you got the books, which is cool?
Yeah, at the core, that's kind of where we don't have a lot of extra flashy stuff. We obviously have the 2 covers. We have the fantasy cover, and then we have the cyberpunk cover that's inspired by a $6 Million Man style.
Both of them phenomenal covers, but I will say the fantasy cover won me on this one.
Yeah, we have obviously catch-ups where you can get. We still have some copies of the variant covers from issues 1 and 2, and then probably the biggest one is just we have the drawn in a comic. So that's really, when I say issue 4 is 90% done, that's kind of the last 10%, that and the lettering to get done. And so if you have that, if you wanted to be in the comic, if you want to put your cat in the comic as well, there's your
Exactly. Yeah.
opportunity, right? To do it. So
You got one last shot
yeah,
after
exactly.
this.
So yeah, we try to, and I'm still, even though this is the third issue and I've done a couple other Kickstarters, this is each time I'm trying to figure out the sweet spots of things, right? And
Yeah.
I'm always looking at other people's Kickstarters. They say steal like an artist. It's like, oh, they did this thing. Oh, I'm going to make a note about that. Does
Yeah.
this apply to this? So,
But you don't want to dig yourself too hole
right, right.
into a hole too big, because at the end of the day, you do too much, your bottom line is going to suffer. And you
Sure,
want to
sure.
have enough equity going forward. That way, when you do number 4, it's not as stressful on the pocketbook.
Yes, absolutely. Although I will say, this one we're just looking initially for $500. Obviously, we want more, but that's to cover the print
Yeah.
cost, really.
Yeah, and
So,
honestly, that's not a bad deal.
mhm.
$500 to print, that's honestly pretty good. And who do y'all go through for your print? Are you doing someplace local there in Atlanta, or
No, it's a Comic Impressions. Was the first two
okay?
issues went through them, and I've had a good. I mean, so far I had a good relationship with them. They seem to turn around things
Hmm.
really quickly. The only slight question mark, and it has nothing to do with them. It's we're launching this in October, and it'll end in early November, and then we've got the
Yeah,
holidays. So I've tried to, as far as like on the rewards when the actual print copies will be sent out. I've
yeah,
tried to give myself the slight buffer because I know the holidays are there and that's going to
yeah,
slow everything down ever so much.
yeah. And right now, I think if USPS always has their issues. I know,
Sure.
like from one of my previous interviews I had on, Greg Duke Electric, nerd in the sky. His Canadian Postal is currently on strike again, I believe.
Oh
So
wow.
his
Okay.
campaign just closed, and he can't even get books out of Canada currently, I
Ugh.
think.
Yeah.
So there's always that to think about.
Yes. Yeah. And that's again, you
That and the
talk about,
prices have gone up
yes.
ridiculously.
Yeah. So it's all those little things are like the learning experiences that,
Hmm.
I always want to, it's the thing you always want to under promise and over
Over
fulfill or
deliver.
what you
Yeah.
over deliver. Yeah. So if I tell you that it's going to be March before you get your comic and we get it to you in January, I think that's only going to be a positive, but I want to make sure that I don't hose myself on,
Yeah. And
on,
people it can happen quickly.
yeah. Well, on the Gilded Age, when we did the trade for that, we actually had a Chinese printer, and it never occurred to me because I'm an American and I just live in my own American world that Chinese New Year is kind of big over there, and so
Huge.
literally,
It's like the whole month.
literally, yeah, the whole month basically, and the books were ready to be shipped, but because they basically took the month off, they didn't get to the
Yep.
port, and I just again, luckily I'd added some buffer in there, but it ate all the
Yeah.
buffer up,
Yeah.
so and it
Yeah. I
just
mean,
it was never on my list of things like I need to make sure that this is done before this date.
yeah.
Um, so
And again, that goes back to lessons learned. And do you have any advice for anybody? You're kind of you're getting up there into the semi pros of Kickstarters now. This is your fourth one going in.
sure.
Like, do you have any good advice for guys who are considering going the Kickstarter route? Because I know a lot of people kick this can, and it
Mhm.
seems like I see these great concepts pop up online, whether it be Instagram or Facebook, and I love their concept, but they're like, well, I'm pitching it. I'm like, dude, why are
Yeah.
you pitching it? Go to the Kickstarter and just do it.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
people fund your project, sell your product to people. And I know that's really hard for some people to do, but what advice do you have for people who are kind of on the edge of their seat? Like, do I want to do a Kickstarter, or do I still want to kind of kick this to people and see what they say?
Yeah. So one thing I would say, but I don't think this is an absolute. It's an absolute for me, as best as I can make it, is I want to have the project done before I actually launch the Kickstarter. And the big reason is the stress that you already have stress doing the Kickstarter. You always have the imposter syndrome guy sitting on your shoulder. The last thing I need is then, and I'm not trying to blame anybody, but what if the printer, takes an extra month to get the thing? What if the artist those last couple of pages, it takes an extra few weeks to get in. These things can snowball on you. And I don't want to be sitting there thinking I'm letting down the backers, because again, at the end of the day, I'm the one launching it. It's my project, and there has to be a trust that you build up, hopefully, between you and the backers, because they're giving you money for something they haven't seen, necessarily seen, especially if it's your first thing. So that would probably be my number one thing, and I would highly suggest it for anybody. And then the other thing kind of goes back to what you're saying, though. Don't pitch it. Let's do it. Like
Absolutely.
the difference between somebody who has written something and somebody who has not written something is the words "the end" basically on the, at the end of the page, right? So like, so many times, especially early on, it was like, I can't do it for whatever reason. And some of them are legit, right? Obviously, money at the end of the day is one of the biggest things.
Money and time.
Yes. But if you can find a way, heck, if you could figure out a way to get the first 5 pages and a cover done, right? Can you scrounge up enough money for that? And then maybe that's what you take. Now, again, that goes against having the whole thing done, but maybe you can figure out, if I had a $500, I could get the rest of this done. If I had $1,000, how much blood and sweat are you willing to put into it for, as well, right?
At the end of the day, if you're going to be going into it and I'm not putting nobody on blast. I would never do that. But if you're coming into it and you got half a book and a freaking banging cover, and you need that Kickstarter to really finish that book, start that Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing a guy in 2 weeks. That's the boat he's in. And I'm hoping what we're bringing to the table when he comes to the table, I've read what he's got. Amazing stuff. Like, sure. I'm like, dude, I'm glad you're doing the Kickstarter to get this out, because it's a cool spin on a superhero character that I really like. And I was like, this is new. It's a little different. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm glad you're going this route, because you need to get this finished. The story's done. It's just the art that he needs to get done. So the Kickstarter is going to help him get the art done and get that book out to people. And I'm just like, dude, I love this concept. So again, we'll talk to him in like 2 weeks, but he's like you just said, he's one of those guys where he's got a great initial concept. The half of the book is done. The art looks great. The story is great. And jump into that Kickstarter, get it funded, and get it done. Yeah. No better time than the present, than to get her done.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask, how important has the community been, like reviewers and podcaster fans, been to your success with these books? I know when you initially emailed me, you were like, hey, would you do a review? And I'm like, dude, I do podcasts and I give you the review. Right. Basically. And then I've done that for an hour now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've sung the praises of the book. And I could type you out a review, but I think this is more personal.
No, I think you're absolutely, and like I said, I'm dipping my toe into the podcast side of things, trying to get these, conversations going. But I feel like every person that's taken the time to do a review, to even do some kind of just spotlight, share the link. I mean, every single one of those, whether I can directly measure, that's definitely a sale, I don't necessarily know, but my hope is that to get this in front of people, to get them to read it, to get them to buy in, and that that they'll be excited when issue 4 drops next year, and kind of go that way, because I'm at the end of the day, Egg and I are doing this because we love comics, we love this story, and we want other people to love the thing that we've made, which is always a weird thing to say, but at the end of the day,
but
that's
it's
what
not
we want,
though. You want to share your passion with everybody around you with what you've done, and y'all put together this phenomenal story that, and to be fair to everybody out there right now, very few people have done this kind of story and executed it to the level that y'all have executed it at.
Well, I appreciate that. Those are very kind words, and that's that's what we hope, right? Like we hope that somebody reads the story, they really enjoy it, and and if that happens, and at the end of the day they say, "Hey, this was something that like moved me or touched me or whatever,"
Mhm.
that's kind of the goal. And so, getting back to the original question, any person that has shared it in some way or put even the tiniest spotlight on the book, I mean, you know, if any of them came to me, I would do whatever I could to help them out, so like if
Yeah.
sharing things, putting the word out, I feel like that's the part of the community that I try to do whenever I can, and certainly during the
Yep.
course of the Kickstarter, occasionally doing an update that says, hey, by the way, there's this thing over here too that you might
Mhm.
like, because
So that's
yeah.
literally what I do as your Kickstarter is going. As I see your post come across social media, I immediately reblog it or reshare it or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then I add it to my story like, hey, check this book out. You know, and like I told you before we went on air, is if you're on my podcast, you're welcome because you're now a member of the Council of Nerds, and B, you're not like I don't if I don't like the shit, it's not coming on here. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, fair enough. I mean, again, we all
So
have limited time, right? So that's why
and
I
you're
totally
getting my
appreciate it
seal of
too, right?
approval at the end of the podcast. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, for me, I've never said no because I've never been delivered a product or a project where I was just like, you might want to rethink this one.
Hmm.
I've never had that happen yet. I'm sure
Sure.
it's bound to happen someday, but I've been very lucky and very blessed in the fact that when people present me things, either it's new and I love the concept, or it's just so well done that how can I say no to it?
Right. Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
you're an established individual within your what you're doing,
Hmm.
and I'm like, let's feature them. And
Yeah.
that's what we're doing here tonight with you, John. But we're going to start wrapping this up. But since it's October, spooky season is upon us. We're going to end this tonight with some spooky twists before we let you plug your social media. And since In Our Dreams Awake is all about dreams, do you believe dreams can predict the future or reveal truths about us?
1,000%. Yes, absolutely. Like, I mean, I feel like everybody has that story of an aunt or a grandmother or somebody who had some dream that, kind of predicted something, and not necessarily always bad, but a lot of times those stories are like, I had this thing, and then it turned out this person was sick with the flu, and or whatever.
Yep.
And so I have there's been a couple of those in my family tree that I feel like uh, makes me think. It makes me think it has to be true, and I kind of want to live in a world where it's true, even if it's not
No,
true, right?
absolutely.
Like,
100%. 100%. Everybody's got that one on in their family that you swear to God is a witch.
absolutely, absolutely.
I said witch with the W, people.
I heard it. I heard it. I can back it. The math
Everybody's got one
checks
of those
out.
other ants. That's one of those other ones too.
Yeah.
So now, the weirdest dream you've ever had,
Ooh.
and not those ones from your teenage years, John.
No, no. The, the this is gonna sound so bizarre, but dreams are like
That's the
that.
point.
I think the weirdest dream I ever had was when I was very young. It was like a recurring nightmare that really didn't make any sense, but it was numbers. I don't know, like from the old Sesame Street style, where they were like puppets or Muppets, I guess,
Yes. Yes.
and they were basically like lemmings going off a cliff. And that was like the big part of the dream was I couldn't stop them from doing this. And it's I don't know if that was I was on my way for my engineering degree even at like 5 or 6, but
Just
that's
numbers in the
it's
head.
still, I mean, that's over 40 years ago, and it's still in my brain that like that was something that kind of my youth, just I don't know, I don't want to say scarred me, but it was just a recurring little nightmare that
No,
would
numbers
happen.
scarred me too, but it was my algebra teacher. But
How about you? How about you? Do you have a recurring something like that?
for me, it would be like I always had the fallen dream where you're just falling,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it always would happen like in different ways. Like was spinning on the merry-go-round really fast, and I fell off, and I just kept falling. And
Hmm.
for me, it was always that concept there. But it was the only thing that was like the same every time is that I was falling, and I would never stop falling, and then I would
Yeah.
just wake up. But I always got to the fall differently every single
Right.
time.
Right.
So whether I accidentally fell off a cliff or I was hiking and I fell into a cave, it is just I would just keep falling.
Hmm.
So that was for mine, and I know
Hmm.
that's weird, but and I'm sure other people have one similar to it. But for me, it was always the fall, and how I got to the fall was always different. So Jason Byron is our main character in Our Dreams Awake. If he had a Halloween costume, what would he be?
Well, I think that in some weird ways he's kind of wearing him in the dreams, but I
But
feel
which
like
one is the
I
costume?
I know I feel like on the
Oh,
fantasy side he would probably go as a magi and dress up and maybe try to live that life for a hot minute.
hmm.
With Jason and the cyberpunk, I mean he'd have to like go as a fish alien. I
Yeah,
mean that
and
way
he can't pull off the cat. So I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, no, he's too tall for that. But like, yeah, I think going as a fish alien.
I like it. I like it. So to wrap up our Halloween twisted questions here, what is your all-time favorite horror, sci-fi, or fantasy story that really inspired you to write novels and to write comic books?
Um,
You can have more than one.
yeah, so I think that my one of my all time favorites just of the horror genre is Scream, and I love the fact that like they
Okay.
deconstructed the whole horror genre while still being like very true to all of it as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of those movies when I watched it, I think opened my eyes to like, oh, you can look at things from a different angle than everybody else, and that's a good thing. Just because
Yep.
so many times it's very easy to just do the same thing as everybody else. I feel like that's one of those that kind of keyed off. And then the other thing would be Stephen King's The Dark Tower,
Ooh.
which just
Not the
periodic.
book. Or the
Oh
books,
no,
not
the
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 TV show.
yeah
The movie
the
was horrible. Ooh.
no, I haven't watched that because my brother basically said, shook his head.
Yeah. It
but
was done horribly.
but the yeah
Great concept, but they didn't do it right.
the series itself, the book series itself. I mean, it's one of those things where after you read a book, you go both in a good and a bad way. It's like, why am I even doing this? Should I break my fingers because I can't write that? But it also again gives you something to aspire to.
It
It's like
really does. And what's so great about that series is you can go from that series into branches to all his other books.
mhm.
And what's really cool about it is his son's books can fit into all of it as well.
Yeah, yeah. And what's funny is I've only done really the Dark Tower and a couple of the other books that he's written, but I have read Horns by Joe Hill, and I've
Yep.
read some of Joe Hill's shorts. So,
Nosferatu was probably like I know they did the TV series based
mhm,
off of it, but yeah, I don't think even that it was good, but
mhm.
it didn't do the book justice.
Yeah, that's definitely one on my short list that I need to get to reading. Um, so, but yeah, I think those are probably two of the keys. I mean,
Those are perfect, man. Like
everything I
those.
read, I try to take in and see how how it affects me or whatever.
Mhm. Now, follow up to the Scream. Where should they have stopped?
Um, well, weirdly, like I'm excited about the new one that's coming out
Really?
next year. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought this last one was was like excellent in a lot of ways.
Okay.
That it hit me just right. Like I didn't see it when it came out. It was probably 6 months later. Because I kind of I felt like, okay, we've kind of done this. And then I watched it and I
Yeah.
was like, oh wow, okay, like y'all really stepped it up. So
Okay.
if I was gonna stop it, I would probably say though, after four.
Mhm.
And the
See, I
reason
know
for
we went
that,
with three.
yeah, the reason I say four is and this is where I want the alternate ending to be the thing, where, spoiler alert for a 20-year-old movie, she the cousin or whatever that's basically behind everything.
Mhm.
I want to see a movie where she got away with it. I mean, how cool
Ooh.
would it have been Scream 5 to just feature her in this
Yeah.
weird like celebrity thing, and then
Kind
have
of
her
what they
get
did
hunted?
they tried to go back and do that with Saw.
Yeah, a little bit like that, yeah. But that I feel like both it was a missed opportunity, but I still really
Yeah.
enjoyed the fourth one as
Yeah.
well. So
I mean, I've watched them all. It's one of those where I'm like, I would have probably stopped at 3.
yeah,
But
fair.
let's close it out, John. Where can everybody find you in go?
So my website is johnrmcguire.com. So I try to post
Sign up for his
there.
newsletter.
Yes, absolutely. I try to write a weekly blog on there, and try to post any of my work there. So if you happen to like anything, you can definitely go and purchase it. Let's cheat over here to see what the actual other things. I'm on X under John McGuire. I'm on Blue Sky, John McGuire, and then Instagram John McGuire 40. I'm a little slacker on Instagram, but I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better about posting things because I am trying to do a visual medium, so it makes the most sense to be, more active on there.
To be fair to Instagram is where I do a lot of my sharing for the Kickstarters and stuff like that. I do a lot on Blue Sky as well if the people are on Blue Sky, but you have to really dig on Blue Sky to find it. But Instagram is like right in my face.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and that's pretty much it.
John, I can't thank you enough for coming on. In Our Dreams Awake, y'all. Phenomenal book. Drops tomorrow on Kickstarter at lunchtime. Go give it some support. It's a phenomenal book. If you're into dreams and twisted tales where it's the same dream told 2 different ways, but done very eloquently, and it's tremendous. If you want something different to read, I can highly recommend In Our Dreams Awake. And on top of everything, John McGuire, In Our Dreams Awake, we'll throw in Egg too because he's a part of this whole thing, and all the artists and everybody else is USDN approved.
Awesome.
So there it is. And John, again, welcome to the Council of Nerds. And with that, everybody, we'll see you back in a couple of weeks, unless I get another interview lined up, which maybe I will. With that, everybody, y'all be good, and we are out of here.
Thank you again.
We're gonna do the outro, and then we'll.
Okay.